It doesn't matter how much money you got, how beautiful you are, what your weight is. It doesn't matter. When you lose someone you love, it's like, holy crap.
Wynonna Judd stepped onto the stage as a symbol of American country music, alongside her mother, Naomi Judd. She formed the Judds, chart-topping hits, major awards, sold-out arenas. The public saw a powerful, confident woman who owned the spotlight. But behind that voice was a child who once felt left behind. A daughter carrying unanswered questions. A mother trying to hold her family together while everything seemed to slip out of control. For years, she chose silence. She kept singing. She kept smiling. She kept walking on stage as if nothing was wrong. Now, in her early 60s, Wynonna is beginning to tell the truth. No stage lights, no polished image, no performance. And the real story behind the fame makes people see her in an entirely different way. Tragedy rooted in family and childhood, 1964 to 1994. Wynonna Judd was born on May 30th, 1964, in Ashland, Kentucky, as Christina Claire Simonella. Her mother, Naomi Judd, was 17 years old and still in high school. Wynonna's biological father was Charles Jordan. He left before she was born. There was no wedding, no public acknowledgement, only silence. In a small town like Ashland, a teenage pregnancy carried stigma. Naomi missed her high school graduation. Soon after, she married Michael Simonella. His name went on Wynonna's birth certificate. Legally, he was her father. Biologically, he was not. Wynonna grew up believing the official story. No one told her otherwise, but she later said she always felt something was missing. She described a constant, undefined sense of abandonment. The adults around her avoided the subject. The secret remained buried. Her childhood was unstable. Naomi trained and worked as a nurse, moving where jobs were available. The family relocated from Kentucky to California and back again. Wynonna changed schools multiple times. She had to adjust to new environments before she had fully settled into the old ones. Money was tight. Naomi worked long shifts. At times, they relied on public assistance. Wynonna later summarized those years simply: if you didn't make it or grow it yourself, you didn't have it. There were no luxuries, no financial cushion, no guarantee of security. In that instability, music became constant. Mother and daughter sang together at home. They practiced harmonies. They listened to records. Music did not move away. It did not lie. It did not disappear. For Wynonna, it created identity and control in a life that often felt uncertain. The family secret remained untouched until 1994. By then, Wynonna was 30 years old and pregnant with her son, Elijah. During that time, Naomi revealed the truth. Michael Simonella was not her biological father. Charles Jordan was. The information arrived 3 decades late. The revelation forced Wynonna to reevaluate her entire childhood. The feeling of abandonment suddenly had a name and a face. She began searching for Charles Jordan. She wanted answers. She wanted contact. That reunion never happened. Charles Jordan died in 2000, only weeks before a meeting could take place. There was no conversation, no explanation, no closure. The delayed truth deepened the original wound. Wynonna did not only feel abandoned at birth, she felt deceived for 30 years. Her identity shifted in adulthood. The foundation of her family story changed overnight. This early trauma shaped her psychology. A lack of security turned into a strong need for validation. The stage became more than a platform. It became proof that she mattered. Applause replaced the silence of her early years. At the same time, unresolved pain created vulnerabilities. Trust became fragile. Fear of abandonment followed her into adult relationships. Emotional instability later appeared in patterns of overindulgence and impulsive decisions. from 1964 to 1994, before public scandals and personal crises became visible. The groundwork had already been laid. A teenage pregnancy, a father who left, a secret kept for 30 years, and a question that was never directly answered. Why did he walk away? Tragedy in career and family health, 1989 to 1991. By the late 1980s, the Judds were at their peak. Wynonna Judd and Naomi Judd had built a dominant presence in country music. They had multiple #1 singles. They won Grammy Awards. They toured nationally. Their harmonies defined late 1980s country radio. In 1989, everything shifted. Naomi was diagnosed with hepatitis C. Doctors traced the infection to a needle stick injury from her earlier nursing career. The disease caused severe fatigue and pain. At one point, she was told she might have only 3 years to live. An evaluation at the Mayo Clinic confirmed significant liver damage that had gone undetected for years. Naomi chose to speak publicly about the illness to raise awareness. She gave interviews. She discussed the diagnosis openly, but physically. She could not continue performing at the same pace. In 1990, she announced her retirement from touring. For Wynonna, then 26 years old, the diagnosis was both medical and personal. The duo was not just a professional partnership, it was her primary emotional bond. Her mother was her singing partner, business partner, and daily presence. In 1991, they launched their farewell tour, titled Love Can Build a Bridge. The tour included 124 shows. Each performance carried finality. The audience saw celebration. Wynonna experienced loss in real time. Their final single and performances carried added emotional weight. What had once been momentum now felt like an ending. The public framed it as a triumphant farewell. Privately, Wynonna was losing the structure that had defined her adulthood. The breakup of the Judds was not caused by conflict or declining popularity. It ended at the top. That fact made the loss more abrupt. There was no gradual fade. There was a diagnosis, a decision, and a final curtain, professionally. Wynonna transitioned into a solo career. She signed new deals. She recorded independently. She proved she could succeed on her own. Her early solo releases performed strongly on the charts, but the shift exposed isolation. For the first time, she stood on stage without her mother beside her. The harmonies were gone. The shared identity was gone. This period marked more than the end of a duo. It marked the beginning of separation. The illness forced independence. Success continued. But the emotional foundation changed. Between 1989 and 1991, Wynonna lost more than a musical partner. She lost daily closeness, routine, and the sense of unity that had anchored her since childhood. The spotlight remained. The structure behind it did not. Personal crisis, addiction, and recovery, 2000 to 2010. After establishing herself as a successful solo artist in the 1990s, Wynonna Judd appeared stable on the surface. Her albums sold well. She toured consistently. She maintained a strong fan base. Publicly, she was a proven star outside of the Judds. Privately, instability was building. On November 13, 2003, Wynonna was arrested for driving under the influence. Her blood alcohol content measured 0. 175, more than twice the legal limit. The arrest occurred 1 week before her scheduled wedding. She later pleaded guilty. She lost her driver's license. She completed community service. The DUI exposed a broader issue. Around the same time, she discovered she was close to financial collapse, despite years of commercial success. Excessive spending and poor financial oversight had placed her 525-acre Tennessee farm at risk. The property, which represented stability and achievement, could have been lost. In 2004, she entered treatment. She sought help at the Ted Klontz program for issues related to money and food addiction, patterns she linked to childhood poverty. Later, she spent 42 days at Shades of Hope Treatment Center in Texas. The process focused on behavioral addiction and emotional triggers rather than substance dependency alone. Wynonna described the experience as being broken down and rebuilt. Treatment forced her to confront the connection between early abandonment, financial insecurity, and compulsive behavior. Food became comfort. Spending became control. Success did not eliminate those impulses. The recovery process was structured. It involved therapy sessions, accountability, and behavioral discipline. She began identifying emotional triggers instead of reacting to them. It was not a quick transformation. It required daily effort. In 2010, her physical health forced another confrontation. She underwent gastric surgery in an effort to address long-term weight struggles. After the procedure, she developed a pulmonary blood clot. The condition was life-threatening. She required immediate medical attention. The event underscored the risks tied to both physical and emotional health. The same year, she was involved in a car accident in Salt Lake City while traveling at approximately 55 miles per hour. She survived. But the incident reinforced a growing realization. Survival was not guaranteed. These back-to-back health scares shifted her priorities. She concluded that physical change required mental change first. She began focusing on mindset before diet. Over time, she lost 55 pounds. More importantly, she reframed discipline as self-preservation rather than image management. Between 2003 and 2010, Wynonna experienced public embarrassment, financial threat, addiction treatment, and near-death health events. Each incident functioned as a warning signal. The DUI exposed loss of control. The financial crisis exposed unresolved fear of scarcity. Rehab exposed emotional wounds rooted in childhood. The medical emergencies exposed mortality. These were not isolated problems. They were connected patterns, instead of ending her career. This period forced recalibration. She did not retreat permanently from music. She returned with greater self-awareness. Recovery did not erase past behavior, but it reduced denial. For Wynonna, the decade became a turning point. The external image of a strong performer remained internally. She began dismantling the coping mechanisms built in childhood. The crisis years between 2000 and 2010 did not destroy her career. They forced her to confront it, and herself, with fewer illusions. Marriage tragedies and family loss. 1996 to 2012. For Wynonna Judd, marriage represented stability. It represented family structure. It represented the security she did not fully experience as a child. Between 1996 and 2012, that search for stability brought repeated disruption. Wynonna married Arch Kelly III in January 1996. At the time, she was 4 months pregnant with their daughter. Grace, their son, Elijah, had been born in 1994. Kelly stayed home as a full-time father, while Wynonna toured and recorded. The arrangement created a traditional structure: one parent working publicly, one managing the household. The marriage ended quietly in 1998. There were no major public scandals attached to the divorce. There was separation, paperwork, and custody arrangements. The relationship dissolved after only 2 years. Wynonna became a single mother of 2 children while maintaining a national music career. The burden shifted back to her. The second marriage brought a public crisis. In November 2003, shortly after her DUI arrest, Wynonna married her former bodyguard, Dr. Roach. The timing connected personal instability with emotional decision-making. In 2007, Roach was arrested and charged with aggravated sexual battery involving a minor under the age of 13. The charges were severe. He later received a 10-year prison sentence. Wynonna filed for divorce immediately after the arrest. The legal case became public record. The scandal attached her name to criminal headlines unrelated to her own conduct. The situation added humiliation and emotional strain during a period when she was already confronting addiction and recovery issues. The second marriage ended not with gradual separation, but with criminal exposure. Trust collapsed again. The pattern of instability continued. In 2012, Wynonna married musician Cactus Moser, drummer for Highway 101. The relationship appeared grounded in shared professional experience and sobriety. They married in June 2012. On August 18, 2012, 2 months after the wedding, Moser was involved in a motorcycle accident in South Dakota. A car struck his motorcycle. His left leg was severely damaged and later amputated above the knee. He also required surgery on his hands. Wynonna witnessed the aftermath and immediately halted her tour schedule. She shifted from performer to caregiver. The medical process included multiple surgeries and rehabilitation. The recovery was long and physically demanding. Unlike her previous marriages, this crisis did not end the relationship. It tested it. Wynonna later described the marriage as bulletproof after surviving the accident together. The trauma forced adaptation rather than separation. Across 3 marriages, a pattern is visible. The first ended quietly but quickly. The second collapsed under criminal charges. The third faced physical catastrophe but endured. These relationships reflect deeper psychological patterns. Early abandonment may have shaped her expectations of security. Rapid attachment followed by instability repeated more than once. The desire for permanence met repeated disruption. Yet the third marriage introduced a different outcome. The crisis did not result in departure. It resulted in partnership under pressure. Between 1996 and 2012, Wynonna experienced divorce, scandal, and near-fatal injury within her immediate family. Marriage did not initially deliver stability. It revealed unresolved vulnerabilities, but it also demonstrated growth. By 2012, she did not walk away when hardship arrived. The pattern did not disappear. It evolved. Grace Pauline Kelly and the Peak of Family Tragedy, 2015 to 2024. By the mid-2000s, the instability that marked Wynonna Judd's early life began appearing in the next generation. The focus shifted from her own crises to those of her daughter, Grace Pauline Kelly. In 2015, Grace was arrested at a Walgreens store for possession of materials used in the manufacture of methamphetamine. The incident marked the beginning of a series of legal problems. In 2016, she faced misdemeanor charges. Between 2016 and 2017, she violated probation multiple times. In 2018, Grace was sentenced to 8 years in prison on drug-related charges. The sentence became public record. In 2020, she was granted parole. The release did not end the pattern. In 2024, Grace was arrested again in multiple states. In Alabama, she faced charges related to indecent exposure. In Georgia, she was charged with fleeing from law enforcement. In Virginia, authorities connected her to the theft of a church van. Each arrest generated headlines that included Wynonna's name. For Wynonna, the situation was not abstract. It was personal and continuous. Court dates replaced tour dates. Legal updates replaced chart positions. As a mother, she faced the limits of control publicly. She acknowledged the situation without shielding it from reality. While navigating her daughter's legal struggles, Wynonna faced a second and more devastating loss. On April 30th, 2022, Naomi Judd died by suicide from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. She had been battling severe depression and bipolar disorder. Reports later referenced the side effects of lithium treatment. The death occurred one day before Naomi was scheduled to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame as part of the Judds, according to Wynonna. One of her mother's final words to her was, "Will you stay with me?" Within hours, the situation escalated beyond intervention. The following day, instead of a celebration, Wynonna stood publicly at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The event shifted in tone. It became both a recognition and memorial. Her voice trembled as she addressed the audience. The ceremony carried the weight of immediate grief. The death was not entirely unforeseen. Naomi had spoken openly about mental illness in previous years. However, preparation did not reduce impact. Wynonna described feeling anger, guilt, and unfinished conflict. She acknowledged that they had argued in the past. She questioned whether more could have been done. In interviews later in 2022, including a nationally televised conversation with CBS, Wynonna stated that grief did not move in a straight line. It moved in cycles. Some days functioned normally. Other days returned to shock. The convergence of her daughter's legal battles and her mother's suicide marked the peak of family trauma. 2 generations. 2 different forms of crisis. One public figure in the center. This period closed a circle that began in 1964. A teenage mother, a daughter who felt abandoned, a family built around survival and performance. Decades later, mental illness and addiction resurfaced in different forms. Yet this stage also altered Wynonna's approach to transparency. Instead of silence, she chose public acknowledgement. She discussed grief openly. She continued performing while admitting instability. She did not present resilience as perfection. Between 2015 and 2024, the tragedies were no longer only personal struggles. They were generational and irreversible. The loss of her mother was final. Her daughter's path remained uncertain. For Wynonna, this era did not offer resolution. It forced endurance. The family story did not conclude neatly. It exposed the reality that fame does not shield anyone from mental illness, addiction, or permanent loss. This was the emotional peak of her life story, not because it ended her career, but because it confronted her with what she could not fix. Conclusion: survival, strength, and legacy from abandonment at birth to public loss decades later. Wynonna Judd has lived through repeated personal storms: a father who left, a childhood shaped by secrecy, a career interrupted by illness, addiction, divorce, scandal, near-death health scares, a daughter in legal trouble, a mother lost to suicide. The events span 6 decades. None of them erased her. What changed over time was her response. Around 2008, Wynonna began focusing on what she calls brain state conditioning. Instead of chasing an image, she worked on thought patterns. Instead of reacting, she paused. The shift was practical. It showed in discipline, boundaries, and physical health. Over time, she lost 55 pounds. She connected mental stability to physical survival. In 2024, she launched the Back to Why tour. She stood on stage not as half of the Judds, but as herself. In 2025, she appeared on TikTok without makeup. No filters, no performance. She described laughter as her beauty secret. She referred to wrinkles as proof of survival. Her legacy is not built only on chart positions or Grammy wins. It is built on endurance. She has allowed fans to see failure, grief, and recovery without pretending they do not exist. That openness reshaped her public image from star to survivor. The phrase, "Love can build a bridge," once described a farewell tour. Now, it describes her life. Love did not prevent tragedy. It carried her through it. Wynonna's story does not promise a pain-free future. It demonstrates continuity. She continues to perform. She continues to speak honestly. She continues to stand in front of audiences with full awareness of what she has endured. The storms did not disappear. She learned to walk through them. And that is the bridge she leaves behind.